In this video we will create our own first workflow. This will be really easy, and this will not be an AI automation. We will not use AI, this is a simply hard-coded automation if you want to call it that way. Now we are of course once again in n8n, and I work on my local host here, so you do not have to use the paid plan. We simply press create workflow. And the first thing that we can do is to press on your workflow and we give it a name. I simply use Airtable as the name right here. And the next thing that we do is to press save, because I like to save my workflows all the time. One of the first things that I always love to do is to press on these three dots. You can duplicate it, you can download it later, you can import it from a different URL, you can also import files. I want to show you these in the next videos, but the most important thing right now is to press settings. And here on settings you can type in a lot of different stuff. Execution order, we can leave this. Error workflow, more on that later, this will be important in later videos. Then this right here, this is the most important thing, at least right now, the time zone. You need to use the time zone in where you live. You simply press on it, and for me it's for example Berlin. So Europe, Berlin, this is by the way I think also where this thing was created. You have to use this so that the tool knows what time zone you are living in. Because if we want to make some automations later where we use for example real-time data, this will be crucial. And then we simply press save. This is a really important step and you should not leave this out. Now we are in this canvas. If you press Ctrl, you can simply move this canvas around. And you also see down here where you are in your canvas. Right now we have only one node and you see where this node is. You can also go down and up if you simply scroll with the mouse. If you press Ctrl and if you scroll with your mouse, you can simply scroll in and out in your workflows. You can do the same thing down here. You can also center it, zoom in, zoom out, and you can also go back by pressing on this button. We are right now in the editor. We also have executions, and here you can see what executions were executed. Right now nothing was executed. This is of course to be expected because we haven't done anything. The first thing that you always need is a node, and we always need to start with a trigger node. If you press on this plus, we have a lot of different triggers. If you use for example the manual trigger node, you can press on it, and if you press then test workflow, you can see if this is working or not. If you press test workflow, this node is right now executed, but of course nothing happened, but our click was executed. And even if you press on executions right now, you see that this node was executed successfully. If we go back, of course we can also delete this. But if you want to start with your first automation, you can trigger it manually. You can also use on-event triggers. If you press on these, you can use a lot of different things. You can include Airtable, you can include AWS, Box, Bubble, ClickUp, CoinGecko for the crypto nerds, DeepL if you want to do it with translations, DHL, Drift, Dropbox. You can use email triggers, Facebook leads ad trigger, a normal Facebook trigger, Form.io, GitHub, Google Ads, Google Analytics, Google Calendar, Google Cloud Storage, Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Sheets, Hacker News, HubSpot, and basically a lot of different triggers. You can use a lot of different trigger nodes. Even Notion, a lot is included here. If you press plus once again, you see that you also have a on schedule trigger. And if you press on these, you can use, for example, different timelines when this should be executed. You can execute it every single day, once a day at midnight. Or you can also execute it every single minute, for example, or every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes. So this workflow will get triggered automatically every 10 minutes. And of course we can delete it, press plus once again. We can use on webhook call. So if you want to call it via different webhooks, you can use this. When executed by another workflow, we will do a lot of these things later because we can also make sub workflows and we can call this with n8n. You can use on chat message, so if you simply want to chat here and execute your workflow, you can also do this. It's really easy to use. You have also other ways if you want, so you can use the error trigger, local files and so on. But what we want to do right now is to use the on-form submission. And if you press on this, it gets executed, and right now we will use this. So basically what we want to do right now is we want to make an on-form submission, and if we type stuff in, we want to save it automatically in Airtable. So this is our first node, and we want to start with these. If you press on these nodes, you have a lot of data, and we should fill this out correctly. Our example will look something like this. People want to book a hotel room, for example, on a on-form submission. And here we can use this test URL and also later the production URL. The authentication we don't use any, but you can use one if you want. Then the form title. So what should it be? Let's just call it room. And the description. What room do you like, for example? And then we need to give the field names. Your name, it should be text, and the placeholder, type your name, for example. And this should be a required field. And we also want to have some more elements. So add form element, they should not only type in their name, they should also fill out what they like. And we can simply copy this thing right here, because this is basically the same thing that we want to include. So what room do you like? Right now we do not want to use text because we want to have a drop-down list, for example. And here we want to give some option. Let's just say standard room, add field, or let's just call it single room, deluxe room, and one last option, suite. And if we scroll down, this should be of course multiple choice. And it also is a required field. And this is basically our on-form submission. And if we press test step here on the left side, this thing will open up and we can simply test it out. So what room do you like? I need to type in my name, for example Arnie. And let's just say I want to have a single room, and I can press submit, and boom, there we have it, completely perfect. It was executed. If we close this down, you see that we get our data on the right side. Your name is Arnie. What room do you like? A single room. And here is also the date and time. And this is correct because we used our own time zone. So you see, this time right here is the same as mine in the right corner. If we press on JSON, we have also the JSON data. And if we press on schema, we have also the schema. We will need these things later, of course. If we press this down, this is right now completely perfectly executed. And if we press on executions, you can also see that this thing went through right now. Everything is green, everything is fine. And such a on-form submission is of course only practical if other people can use it. And other people cannot use it by pressing on test workflow. Other people need to use this different. So other people cannot simply go into your local instance and simply press here on test workflow. Other people need a production URL. And in order to get this, we need to send this to active. So not inactive, we want to have this active. As soon as this is activated, we can press on this once again. We can open this up and we can press on the production URL. And this production URL, if we simply copy this production URL and if we throw it in a web browser and if we send it out, this thing will get opened up and we can also type in our stuff right now. So let's just say once again, Peter, and Peter has money, he wants to have a suite, and let's just press submit. Your response has been recorded. If we go back into n8n once again, and if we go on executions, you see that this thing got through right here. If we press on it, you can see that Peter has used a suite, and this was made from the production URL. So everything works right now. So as soon as this is active, your production URL will work. This thing will work. But of course only on your local instance, because you need to host this if you want that other people can use this URL. More on this later. Right now this is only for testing. So you can also send this to inactive once again, and then we can go on with our automation, because we want to store this data that comes here through, and we want to store it, for example, in Airtable. And in order to do that, we have to press plus, and we use something new right here. Let's just say we want to use Airtable because we want to create an Airtable with all this data. In Airtable, we use create a record. And here you see on the left side the data that comes through. And in the middle, you see that you can simply choose the data from the left side. This will be really easy to use. In order to use this data, you have to press on schema, and this schema you can include it here. But the first thing that you need is credentials to connect with Airtable, of course. I have already some credentials, but we will make new ones. And if you ever have any problems, you can press on this documentation, and this documentation is really perfect. You see the Airtable node, and they give you a lot of stuff that you can do. So you have some operations that you can do. You can append the data to a table, you can delete data, you can list the data from a table, and so on. And if you go back, you can simply see here on operation that you have all of these things, but we want of course create. So let's just make an Airtable account or an Airtable token. If you press on this, you need to press create new credentials if you don't have any. And then we need to give an access token. And now I want to show you how we can get this access token. You simply Google Airtable and you press on it. You can make an account in Airtable for free, and then you press on all workspaces. You want to create a new workspace. Here we press create, and we want to have a new one. And here you can give a name. For example, test Airtable. And here we have only two things that we want to include. We want to have a name, and we don't want to have nodes. Here we have room, because we want to book different rooms. This will be a really easy example, and we save it. And the other things we can basically simply delete them. So delete, and we can also delete these fields here. So right now we are completely empty. We only have name and room. And what we need right now is of course an API key. So we press on our name in the right corner. We go into the Builder Hub. We need our personal tokens. Excuse me that this is in German, but in English it will also look the same way. Then we simply press create new token. We give it a name, for example, n8n2, because I already have something here. And what we want to do with this token, we simply press on this right here. We want to have it access to read documents, and we also want to have write. And lastly, we also want to have the schema. So basically this down here. And what's the access? We simply press plus here. We can simply scroll down, and it was test Airtable, I think. And now we simply press create token. And this right here is our token. We can simply copy this token and we go back into n8n. And here in n8n you see also why I have used the schema. We need the record read, the record write, and the base schema read. And here is the access token. We can simply include this token, and then we press save, and then this thing will be green, and as soon as something is green, it's always perfect. We can close this down. Right now we are connected with our Airtable database. And now we can simply map this data in the right fields. Resources record is right. Operation create, because we want to create new rows. Then we have the base from list. Of course, because we can simply choose our list. We can press on this, and then you find this test Airtable, the same thing that we have created in Airtable. So we can simply press on test Airtable. And then we have also the table from list, and we can also choose this right here. We only have one table right here. And then down here we have the values to send. We have only name and room. So this is automatically because we have this test Airtable with table 1 with name and room. If we go back into Airtable, back from the Builder Hub, on test Airtable, you see we have test Airtable, table 1, name and room. All of this is included automatically. And now we need to give the right schema. So values to send, what we want to send in name, we want to have an expression, and the expression will be here from the schema. This is basically your name, so we simply throw your name down here. And the room is also an expression. I think you can also leave it at fixed, but I like to use expression. And what we want to have, a single room. So what room do you like? We simply throw this down here. And then this will be updated completely automatically. We can also press test step in order to see if our data comes through. The name should be ASDS. This was just a stupid test that I did previously. And he should use a single room. If we simply press test step, let's just see if the data comes through. The data comes through. So the name is ASDS with a single room. And if we go in Airtable right now, you see ASDS single room. We can also make a test right now, a complete test of this workflow. We simply press test workflow. We want to have, for example, John. And John wants to have the deluxe room. Submit. Workflow executed successfully, so we can close this down. You can press on these. You see, John Deluxe room, this was a test. You can press on Airtable, John, deluxe room, this was a test. And it gets automatically in name and value from our Airtable database. You can see it also here. And if you go in Airtable, you see that John has used the deluxe room. And the same thing is also true for the production URL. You can simply press from inactive on active. You can press on the on form submission. You can use the production URL. You simply copy this production URL. Let's just say you throw this online on your web page, or you send these links to other people. Other people will simply have this thing, and they can simply tell you that their name is Maria, and Maria wants to have a suite. Maria presses submit. Your response has been recorded. And if you go into Airtable, Maria has a suite. This is really that easy. This is our first automation. So just a few simple clicks and you can have an on-form submission that simply throws your data into Airtable. And every time as you want to test this, you can simply throw it from active to inactive. You can simply test your workflow. You give a name, let's just say test, single room, submit. Workflow was executed successfully, test, single room, done. If you want that other people can use it, like just on your local machine, if you host it, other people can use it always from inactive to active, on-form submission, production URL. You send this URL, just if it's hosted, other people can use it. This is just for the sake of this tutorial, just to test it. You can go on this right here, and you can use, for example, the name A, single room, submit. Second test, B, submit. V, not B, excuse me. C, single room, submit. P, suite, submit. Airtable has all this data. Now comes something essential. If you go back into n8n, you have to press save. Congratulations, you have your first really simple automation. This is a hard-coded automation. Some variables simply get sent from an on-form submission into your Airtable database. This is really easy, and in the next video I want to show you how you can share these workflows, how you can import my workflow, how you can simply copy the stuff that I have done so that you don't have to type it out. Later, if you want to make bigger automations, this will be a really powerful. Generally speaking, I would say you should make this yourself so that you understand the tool a little bit better. See you in the next one.